What's up, guys and girls? So, welcome back to training. We're just going to kind of jump right in this session. I promised you that I would teach you everything you need to know about Zapier. So, Zapier is pretty easy, pretty straightforward to understand. If I move too fast or if you have any questions, either just raise your hand if you want to use your mic, or just put the questions in the box, and that works as well. Completely up to you. So, for Zapier, essentially, this is Zapier. Before we actually get into Zapier and start actually using Zapier, what I want to actually do is just take a little second and make sure that you're actually understanding Zapier. All right. So essentially, to understand Zapier, I'm just going to call it Zap. To understand Zapier, you kind of just need to know two basic concepts, maybe three basic concepts. Okay. So you got these guys here. All right. This is what's called a trigger. This is what's called an action. All right. Now, a trigger is essentially.
We can't see your screen.
One second.
Yeah, I can't see your screen.
One second. What about now?
Perfect.
Yes.
Great. So essentially, like I was saying, you have you've got a trigger over here. This guy with a T is a trigger. This guy with an A is an action. Now, in between here, you can also have something in between here known as a filter. Okay? So these essentially are the only things that you actually need to understand. Once you master these and you understand these, then it's all pretty much straightforward from there. All right. So these triggers, essentially in Zapier, what you're going to do is essentially in Zapier, you're going to create a sequence of events. They will always start with a trigger. Now from a trigger, it's basically up to you what you want to do. If you want to go in and let's say have some filter, and then based on that filter, let's say you could have even another filter if you want another filter. And then if those filter conditions pass, then you can go in and add in some action. You could add in some other action. All right. You could even add in another filter if you want, add in some action, and you can continuously do this as much as you want. All right. Now, you notice that you only ever have one trigger. The trigger is essentially the event that fires off this process right here. So this process is going to be fired off by this trigger, whatever this trigger is. Now, essentially on Zapier, what Zapier does is essentially it's an API aggregator. So it's an application aggregator that allows you to take two or more applications or even the same application if you want, and get that application to work in a way that typically you would not get it to do unless you were a developer. So Zapier will allow you to go in and create a lot of different automations. So what you need to keep in mind is in Zapier, you have applications, okay? Now, those applications in Zapier, each application is either going to have triggers, or it's going to have actions, or it's going to have the both, all right? So you'll have an application, and we'll just put app there so that you can understand that this is an app. So you're going to have an application that is either going to only have triggers, or is only going to have actions, or an application that is going to have triggers and actions. And you're going to have a bunch of different apps here, all right? So for example, ManyChat is one application. It has triggers. It also has actions, okay? For example, Google Calendar, GC, we'll just make that a GC. Google Calendar is another one. It has triggers. It has specific things that will actually fire off the sequence of event. And it also has actions as well. All right. So most major applications, most popular applications, you will find those in Zapier, and you'll see that they have triggers and actions. Okay. So this is essentially all you need to know about Zapier and how it works, is that you will have some trigger. That trigger will be some application, and when something specifically happens in that application, they've built a Zapier integration, and whenever that specific thing happens, they just send off all the data that is related to that event to Zapier. And now that essentially triggers this zap, is what this is called. This is called a zap, okay? These essential things right here are called actions, all right? Or sorry, they're not called actions, they're called tasks, all right? This is a task, this filter process, these are all tasks, all right? Now this gets into Zapier's pricing model, how they actually charge you. They have a completely free account and they have several paid options, and basically the paid options, what they do is they give you more functionality. They allow you to have more zaps, which, remember, the zap is this entire sequence of events that are going to fire off, all right? Or in Zapier, they call those tasks, okay? So your zap is going to be basically a series of tasks. So they're going to charge you, like I said, they have a free account. But then once you outuse that free account, you're going to have to, once you start using it a lot, you're going to have to actually upgrade. And they have pretty decent pricing. I can't complain about their pricing at all, especially for the automation that they provide, right? So they're going to charge you based on the total number of zaps, the total number of these entire sets of these tasks. They're also going to charge you based on how many tasks are actually processed. Every time a trigger fires, it is going to fire a particular zap, because that's how every zap starts. Every zap starts with a trigger. It has to start with a trigger, and it can only have one trigger. So every time that trigger fires, it is going to fire that zap, which is going to be made up of probably multiple tasks, and you're going to get charged per task. They give you an allotment, unless you get their high plan, which is not that much. It's like $129 a month, and they give you like unlimited everything. So this is essentially all you need to know. All right. So you're going to have some application. Let's say, for example, MiniChat. All right. Here's our MiniChat application. Now, inside MiniChat, you must have seen inside MiniChat, there's an action. It says send to zap, or it says trigger a zap. So anytime you perform that action in MiniChat, what MiniChat does is they basically dump a whole bunch of data to Zapier, to their trigger object. All right. So now you have a whole bunch of data that essentially starts your flow. Right? It starts your zap. That trigger has started this process, and this trigger is holding a bunch of data. What data is it holding? Well, the data that it holds is completely relative to what this actual trigger is. All right. So if my trigger is MiniChat, trigger a zap event. If that's my trigger, well, then this data, this initial data that I have right here, is going to be all the information about that MiniChat user, their MiniChat ID, their name, their first name, last name, full name, any of the custom fields that I have data stored in, some other information like their gender, if they're active, what growth tools they last used, stuff like that. All right. Now, if this trigger would be my Google Calendar, Google Calendar will fire a trigger, let's say, when an event starts, or when an event is updated, or when a new event is added to your schedule. All right. So if your trigger was Google Calendar, then you're obviously not going to have any MiniChat data starting out in this flow. The data that you're going to have is the data that's specific to that Google Calendar event. Google Calendar is going to say, hey, there's a new event that was added here. You've got a zap that has a trigger for Google Calendar that says, hey, when there's a new event, I want to trigger this zap. I want to trigger this process of tasks. So now at the starting step, your first step, that trigger step, you will be holding all the data that Google thinks is important about that actual event that actually triggered this process. That is your trigger. All right. Now you can use this data anywhere down here in this action line. Okay. You can use a piece of this data right here on one of these filter processes, and you can say, hey, if this data right here, this one piece of data, if this data is equal to this thing, then only then if I want to continue. What's a real use example of that? So I'll show you. I'm hoping you guys all understood that and you guys are good with that explanation, and I can just move forward. If you're not, just raise your hand, or put a comment in the box or something, and then I'll try to explain it a little bit more so that you can understand it a little bit better. All right. If not, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to show you a real world example of all those things by going into my Zap, by going in and actually looking at all my Zaps. And I've got a whole bunch of them. And then I'm just going to search for payment. All right. So here, I don't see that guy. So here's a good one right here. All right. You see this thing right here is called tag action takers. Okay. So let's look at this Zap real quick. You guys are all seeing my screen, right? No problem seeing my screen now. You guys are seeing my screen, no problem. I'm going to take that as a yeah. Great. So now here's a Zap. Here's one trigger. All right. So let's just look at Zap again. Let's go in here and let's go to explore. Now, whenever we explore, if a couple of you guys could just dump in some applications that you guys use every day, softwares that you're using every single day. Just put in those softwares that you're using every day. Must be a bunch of softwares that you guys use every day, or you guys use a lot inside your business. There's a lot of things that you use in your business. All right, so I'm seeing you guys put a bunch of them in. If you guys want, just keep putting a couple more in. So let's look at this one, Recurly. All right, there's one. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. All right, there's Google Sheets. You guys gave Google Sheets. There's Google Sheets. All right, you gave Trello. You gave Trello. There's Trello. You gave WordPress. Well, guess what? There's WordPress. You gave youcanbook.me. Hey, sorry. youcanbook.me. All right. You gave Calendly. I'm not sure if you guys are getting the point here, what's going on, that every one of these things that you guys are giving me, there is a Zap for those, okay? So I'm not sure if you're realizing this, that every one of these things that you guys are using every day are, if you see, I'm just searching for them, and there is a Zap for that, all right? So I'm just grabbing these things from what you're putting in. There's a Zap for that, all right? Text in bulk, there is a Zap for that, but text in bulk app is in a beta stage and it's not released to the general public. So I don't let the general public have it. That's why you guys, if you want the Zap, if you want to use that text in bulk Zap, then I give you a special link that you can use. So now it's accessible to you because it's not visible by the entire world. Okay. So, but anyways, I see a couple more. So thank you guys for putting those in. There's Facebook lead ads. You guys are using that. So let's just put in the rest of them real quick for you guys. All right, there's PayPal. You guys are using that. Here's ClickFunnels. You guys are using that. Here's MailChimp. So I think this is enough that you guys got the point that literally every single software that you guys are using every single day for your business, I see that there's a Zapier integration for it. Now I can just come down here and look real quick. I can see a bunch of popular stuff that people are using these. So these are just popular Zaps that other people are looking at. And I can come down here and eventually I can get to all this data. All right, I can see MailChimp. I can see MailChimp has 6 triggers. So if you get a new subscriber, then anytime you get a new subscriber in MailChimp, MailChimp will take all that subscriber information and they will dump it off to Zapier. Now you can go in and create a Zap and you can start that Zap with a trigger of being MailChimp, new subscriber, and that Zap, that entire process of everything that you're going to automate is going to start off with whatever data is related to that new subscriber. They got new subscriber in segment, new unsubscriber, updated subscriber, new campaign, new list. They also have 3 actions, unsubscribe an email, add or update subscriber, add subscriber to segment. They've got a couple searches, so you can do some searches. ClickFunnels, they've got 4 triggers. So these guys are trigger only, all right? These guys only have triggers. They don't have, so if you remember here, we'll just go in and as we do this, we'll go in back over here and we'll put in our, these were our triggers and these are our actions. So we can see that MailChimp, we'll just call that first. He had both. ClickFunnels, he only has triggers. That's it. but I can see that his triggers are when there's a new failed purchase, a new purchase deprecated. So don't use that anymore. That's all deprecated means is don't use this anymore. New contact activity, new successful purchase. I got PayPal. I can see PayPal also. PP is a trigger only thing. So he's got triggers when you refunded a sale, a successful sale, all merchant transactions. You got Facebook lead ads. He's also a trigger only. So you got Facebook lead ads. He's a trigger only whenever you get a new lead. So guess what? Whenever you get a new lead, Facebook will take all the information about that lead and they will just throw it over to Zapier. Now Zapier holds that information and says, hey, what do you want to do with this information? Well, what do you essentially want to do with this information is this guy becomes your trigger in that Zap, right? We made this Zap and we said, hey, this Zap is just going to be a series of, it's going to start with a trigger. Something is going to trigger this and cause this series of events or this series of tasks to actually happen. All right. So in this instance, let's say it's going to be Facebook lead ads. So as soon as we get a new lead, Facebook is going to pass all the related information about that lead to your Zap process so that you have that data. All right. Right now, we're just covering the fundamental way that Zapier actually works. Okay. We're making sure that you actually understand how Zapier is working so that you can fully understand what all things that you can do with it, because you can do almost anything. So we'll keep looking down our list. Look, here's ManyChat right here. So it has 5 different triggers, 7 different actions, 3 different searches. Here's HubSpot, triggers, actions, searches. All right. There's more things. Facebook pages, triggers, actions. Facebook groups, triggers, actions. Calendly, only triggers. You can book me, triggers, actions. WordPress, triggers, actions. All right. So you're seeing all this. So here's Trello. All right. So here's an action. All right. So now I can essentially come in here and say, hey, when I get this new Facebook lead ad, when I get this new lead from Facebook that comes in and they submit my Facebook lead ad, now I got their name, their email, I've got some other information about them, their budget that I collected, it's et cetera, et cetera. I can have some action, and I've got Trello over here, right? There's Trello. Here's Trello, also has an action. So this action can be Trello, all right? This action specifically can be Trello. Let's see what other actions that they're having. They're having complete checklist in a card, add checklist, create list, update card, add label to card, create board, create card. So essentially that would be the one that I'm going to use. All right. I'm going to use this guy. So now essentially, let's say I got some Trello board, and this is the Trello board that my sales agents are using, and my sales agents are going to this Trello board every day, and they're seeing the new leads, and they're going in and seeing a Trello board that has some hot leads, which are leads just coming in, and then my sales agents are going in and grabbing leads from that board, and they're moving them over to a little board that has their name on it so that the rest of the sales agents know that, hey, I'm talking to this guy, and then maybe I move them somewhere else after I'm done talking to him in Trello, whatever your process is. So now essentially what will happen is you can go in, and now as soon as you get that lead coming from Facebook, as soon as he submits that lead ad, Facebook is going to dump all the relevant information that you've collected right to Zapier. All right. So that's your trigger. So now you can extract this data. You got that guy's name, you got his email, you got his budget, you got all the information that you collected on that lead form in Facebook. Now you can add that to your card and create your card here. All right. So now you can also have another action. Let's say this action could be Gmail. All right. So you can have another action, and you can also call this action Gmail. And now you can also take all this data here, and you can send out an email with that data to a particular salesperson, to your own email, and say, hey, you know, I just got a new lead. I need to go in and actually, and talk to him or manage him. Alternatively, you could go in and instead of having Facebook lead ads be your trigger, you could have had Trello be your trigger, right? Because we see that Trello has 13 triggers. One of those things is going to be when a card is moved from one board to another board. So now you could essentially start a new Zap. Trello is going to be your trigger, all right? So that trigger is going to be Trello, this guy. And then you could go right into an action and say, hey, this action should be Gmail. I want to get an email notification, not whenever I get a new lead, but whenever one of my sales agents go and move a lead to a, cold status, to a cold board that says, hey, I couldn't sell to this lead. I want to be notified about that. So now my sales guys they're getting all their leads from this Trello board right here. So now all those leads are piping automatically right into that Trello board. I don't have to do anything. Every time one comes in, they're added right to that Trello board. All right. So hopefully you guys kind of understand that and that makes sense. All right. So like I said, let's look at a real world actually example of this. Let me see if I can just clear this. All right. So here's a real world example right here. All right. I have a trigger. I'm using Stripe as the application that's going to trigger this process. It's whenever there's a new charge. Okay. Whenever I get a new charge in Stripe, I want to trigger this. So now essentially I'm going to pick my Stripe account. I'll pick that Stripe account and I can go in and see all the data. Here's all the data. Anytime there's a new charge on my Stripe account, Stripe is going to dump all this data here, which is a lot of data. Stripe is going to dump all this data to Zapier. Now I'm holding all this data in my trigger. As soon as there's a new charge on my Stripe account, then this trigger has fired. And it's not as soon as, by the way, okay? Some zaps, some triggers you'll notice are instant triggers, and those trigger instantly. For example, mini chat triggers are instant triggers. As soon as that trigger happens, it is instantly processed in Zapier. Most triggers have a delay, which means according to the plan that you're on, they're going to run every X amount of time. All right. So standard plans, it's 15 minutes. So essentially every 15 minutes, Zapier will go out to Stripe and say, hey, can you give me all new payments? And you will process this Zap for each and every payment. If 10 new payments were made, then Zapier will do this entire process 10 times. One time for each of those new payments, and they'll send each of the correlated data with each Zap. So when the first Zap runs, I'll have this first payment. When the second one runs, I'll have the second payment. When the third one runs, the third payment, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I'm going to take this information here, and I'm going to put that right into a filter. And this filter just says, only continue if. So I only want to continue if the guy's plan ID, if it exactly matches this ID, because that is what I'm actually looking for, because I know that whenever you get this actual charge, that you've just taken action on this bot training course, and you maybe did not actually go to the thank you page and click my call to action that will tag you in MiniChat as an action taker. So now whenever you try to access the replays, you're not going to get the replays because you don't have that tag, and my conditional block is going to say, look, you didn't pay, so you can't have access to this content, right? Now you're going to message me and be like, John, I did pay. And I'm going to be like, well, did you click that big call to action that said click here to finish? And you're going to be like, no, I didn't see it, but I paid. And I'm going to be like, what's your email? Give me your email. I got to go look up your email. Let me verify that you did actually pay. All right, now let me go to MiniChat. Let me find you. Let me manually tag you. So as a redundancy to go in, because I know I've already measured about 40% of the people who actually pay, one, they don't even know what they're paying for. They don't even pay attention. They just say, oh, it's only $47. I already been to 3 of John's sessions, and whatever I'm getting, it must be fucking good. So I'm just going to buy the shit. Have no idea what they bought. Either that, or they buy it and then they don't actually go to that thank you page and click my big call to action so that they can get back into MiniChat and I can tag them that they are an action taker. All right. So now, like I said, now you guys are messaging me, John, I paid you. How come you're not giving me access to this? And now I have to go do this manual process. So for redundancy, I set up this Zap. If you don't go in and actually click that call to action, well, it doesn't matter, because every 5 minutes this Zap is going to run, and it's going to find everybody who actually needs to be tagged as an action taker. And it's literally going to say, hey, did these guys get on this plan? Because I've got so many different things that you could buy from that Stripe account. I want to filter you and make sure that I'm not every single person that purchases something from me. Maybe you didn't take action on those replays, but you did take action on that great offer that I gave you for all 3 of my softwares for $25 a month, which is no longer available. So you took action on that. Now I don't want, just because you took action on those 3 softwares, to also give you the value of something else. So I'm going to filter and I'm going to make sure, look, is this a person that actually, is this a person that purchased what needs to be purchased for you to take action, right? Did you purchase something from this particular plan? Are you on this particular purchase? If so, then I want to basically go into ManyChat and I want to find a user by a custom field. So I'm going to go and look you up in ManyChat. Now, how am I going to look you up? I'm going to look you up. I'm going to look you up based on your email. That's a custom field that I have. If you look right here, here's all the data from this step right here. All right. This step right here has all that data. All right. This step doesn't. Sorry. This doesn't. This has all your custom fields from ManyChat. This step right here has all your data from step 1. All right. So here I can just click on here and I can grab your data from step 1. Now what I've done is I've just grabbed your email. So whenever you paid through Stripe, you had to give an email. I've also told you, as soon as you signed up for my bot class, I've also told you, click this call to action, register in the bot, and give me your email. Now, I've also set up another redundancy that whenever you go through ClickFunnels and you sign up in ClickFunnels, I grab your email, and then I try to push that email down and match by your name. If I can find your name, then I'll match your email in case you don't give it to me. So if you haven't given me your email, then I have no way to actually match up who this person from Stripe is, who is that person in ManyChat, right? The only way that I can match it up is by having some data that's similar. All right. So I know in Stripe, you got to use an email address when you pay me. I know in ManyChat, I've literally told you several times, I need your email address. Give me your email address. So now I'm just going to match you based on that value. So I'm going to say, hey, you just go into ManyChat and you find me the user whose email is equal to whatever email was just given to me by Stripe in this trigger. All right. So I'm going to find that user. Now, this is a search step. Now I get that user back. Now Zapier gives me back that user. Well, ManyChat essentially hands that user over to Zapier and all their information. So now I can add a tag to that user. So now if I look here, I can come right here and I can see not only do I have all the data from step 1 that Stripe gave me, all right? Stripe gave me a bunch of data from step 1. Who paid, what their email was, you know, a bunch of other information about the API call, the transaction status, if it was an invoice or a one-time payment or what it was. They just give me all the information related, the same thing that they would give me in a response if I hit their API call. All right. So now I have access to all that data from Stripe. I also have access to all the data from my filter step. I also have access to all this data from step 3, which is where I found that user. So now I can find that user's ID, right? So now I've got that user's ID because Zapier's handed me back all that information. So now I can say, hey, for this particular user, I want you to add a tag to him and tag him that he's an action taker, so that now when he tries to access the replays, that he doesn't have to, you know, message me and say, John, what gives, buddy? I thought you were a tech guy, fucking paid your shit. Stuff's not working. Can I just have my replays because I'm trying to learn something? So saves me a lot of time, obviously, because this is a fail-safe for me. So it just happens there in the background. All right. So that's one real use of a Zapier integration. Okay. So far, so good that you've understood the high-level concept of what Zapier is, enough where we can go into ManyChat and we can actually build out a flow and we can see it in action. That's a question. So good. All right. So let's rock. Let's go in and let's see if Robin's here. Are you here, Robin? Yep, Robin, you're here. This is something that you were asking for, Robin. Let's create a new flow. Let's create a new flow. I don't know if somebody could just remove this big red line here. I don't know why you put that big red line there, but if you could just remove that. Let me just remove it. I'm not sure what you guys are doing, drawing lines down here. But all right, so let's create a new flow, and we'll just call this segmentation. All right. for live training. Great. So there's that. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to start here. All right. So we won't start here. First, we'll do this. All right. We'll perform an action. And let's say we'll add a tag to a user. All right. So there, I just added a tag to a user. All right. So nothing crazy here. Pretty straightforward. All right. Okay. So this action right here, just the fact that I tagged you, well, I can trigger a zap just based on that. All right. So now what I'm going to go actually do here is I'm going to go in and say a couple things here. All right. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to create a custom field. And this custom field is going to be called last zap triggered. Now, just so you know, if you guys are struggling with custom fields, the best way that I can explain a custom field to you is this, okay? This is a custom field. That's all a custom field is. So if you guys are struggling, this is your field name, all right? So essentially a custom field is just a box. You give that box a name so you know what box to look for if you want to find something, and then you stick some shit inside that box. So I'm going to stick some data inside that box, specifically some text data, some string of characters that is a text data that I expect to have a wide range of ASCII characters in, all right? So I want letters and numbers, etc. All right? So I'm going to take that data, I'm going to stick that shit inside that box. And then whenever I want to find that data, I'm just going to go look inside that box, whatever I called that box. So I'm going to call that box, I essentially called it last zap triggered. So now whenever I want to find that last zap triggered data, I'm just going to look inside that last zap triggered box. And inside there is going to be my actual data. Great, right? So that's how you can think about those custom fields. And you can just think that every user in ManyChat, every one of your subscribers, when you create one box and give it a name, now every user essentially has their own little box. And if you want to see what last zap was triggered for user A, he's got his own box with his own data in it. And for user B, he's got his own box with his own data in it. So essentially, you're always looking at a box with the same name, but essentially they're all different boxes, and every user has their own box for that particular piece of data that you want to actually store. All right. So that's pretty straightforward there. All right. So now I've got this guy, some guy or girl or transgender, but this one's a guy. All right. This is a guy right here. So this guy right here, I added a tag, a zap is triggered. That's it. All right. And then I'm going to say, first off, I just tagged you. Now I can trigger a zap just because of that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here real quick, and I'm going to create some new flow called zap triggered. And I'm just going to come here and say zap triggered and see if I can find something that's good. And I can't find anything. So I'm just going to look for zap or Zapier. Oh, this is awesome. This is really cool right here. I'm going to do this one. I'm liking this guy right here. So I'm going to save that guy. All right. Now I'm going to come to this custom content. I'm just going to create a card, and I'm going to take this download right there and put him right there. And so I'm just going to say this was fired by last zap triggered, I think is what that guy was called. So last zap triggered. All right. So there's that guy. So now I'm just going to publish that guy and save that guy. All right. Because I'm going to use him in my zap. So now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make a zap. Really straightforward process. First thing I need to do is pick my trigger. What thing should cause this sequence of actions to happen. Well, what thing is that going to be? Well, for right now, that thing's going to be ManyChat. So I'm going to use ManyChat. Now, I've got a bunch of different triggers that I can use. I've got 5 different triggers. And I'm going to use this new tagged user trigger because every time I tag a new user, this thing's just going to automatically process. All right? So I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this demo bot. I'm going to pick which one of my ManyChat accounts should I be listening to for this new tagged user. Okay? So it is relative to that ManyChat. I'm going to use demo bot because that's literally who's adding that tag. So now what's that tag going to be? Well, it's going to be Zap triggered. So that Zap was triggered. See, that's the tag that I used here. I just tagged him that Zap was triggered. All right. So that's what I'm going to use there. So now I'm going to continue. I'm going to fetch and continue. Okay. So now he's saying, hey, we hit an error because we can't find any subscribers with this tag. Okay. So I'm just going to send this out to myself. So now I sent that out to myself. So now I can try again, and he should find somebody because now I got somebody that's actually tagged with that. All right, so let's fetch and continue. And great, look, he found somebody. Who'd he find? He found John Vaughn. He found me. Great, so he found me. Awesome. So there I am. All right, and here's all my information. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue, and I'm going to add an action. This is my action. I'm also going to add ManyChat as an action. Now what I'm going to do here is I am going to set a custom field. And I'm going to use my demo bot. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some data from step 1. This is just asking me, who is this user? We need the user ID that you want to send this, that you want to set this custom field for. So I'm going to go in and use a custom value. And I'm going to use my value from step 1 because I've got the user ID because the user is what triggered this. ManyChat's giving me all the data about that user. So I'm just going to pick his user ID. Now, what custom field do I want to use? Well, I want to use last Zap triggered. So I'm going to look for that guy a little bit. There he is, last Zap triggered. So here's going to be the value. This value is going to be this right here by there's that. All right. So now I'm just going to send some data back down to ManyChat and fill up that box called last app triggered. All right. So now I'm going to skip that test. I'm going to add one more step, and that's also going to be a ManyChat step. So now this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to send a piece of content to a user. I'm going to go in and send that flow that I just built. I just built some flow. So I'm going to send that piece of content out to my user. So what user am I going to send it to? Well, I'm going to go grab a custom value. I'm going to grab that piece of data from step 1. Here's step 1. I'm going to grab that guy's ID. All right. What content am I going to send? Well, I'm going to send that content from ManyChat, that Zap triggered content. So now I'm done. So now as a good naming convention, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to grab this guy. And I'm just going to name him added tag Zap triggered demo bot. And I'm going to skip that test. And then I'm going to finish this guy. And I'm going to put him in this guy right there, ManyChat training demos. And I'm going to turn him on because I like to turn things on. So now I'm going to go see this in my dashboard. Here's this. Here's added tag. This does look like it's an instant thing. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my audience. I'm going to search. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll just come right here and I'll go right here. This is segmentation for live training. So I'll just come right here to growth tools. I'll open a new link. I'll create a new growth tool. It will be a messenger ref URL and testing new tag trigger zap. And I'm just going to replace this guy with segmentation for live training. I'm going to go next. I'm going to save this guy. I'm going to get this guy. I'm also going to publish this guy. Now I'm going to let you guys click that link. All right. So now you guys click that link. And you'll see what's going to happen whenever you click that link. So I see Colin. Colin just clicked that link and look. He's went in and he first got my message. First off, I just tagged you. Now I can trigger his app because of that. Boom, he just got my zap literally instantly. As soon as he hit that link, I added that tag. As soon as I added that tag, Zapier was notified because that's the action that's the trigger that I'm listening for. I'm listening for a new tag, specifically this new tag right here, Zap triggered tag. So now you can see all these people have just clicked that link. They've been tagged, and instantly, as soon as they've got tagged, they've got this message sent right back down to them from Zapier. All right. So there's one thing that I can do. Now I can come to another flow. Actually, all right, let's just come right back here to this flow and stay in this flow. All right. So now that this is done, let's edit this guy. Now let's come back over here to Zapier and let's make us a new zap. Because I like to make zaps. So let's make a new zap. And let's just look at ManyChat. Okay. So now I've got a new or updated custom field, a new subscriber, a new tagged user, a new trigger zap, or a new chat open. Any of these things can fire a zap. So let's do this one, a new or updated custom field. Okay. So let's go in and now put in here. Let's automatically continue to a new step. And let's ask you for some user input. All right, so just give me some input. I don't care what you give me. I'm going to stick it in Q5. It's going to go in Q5. So you're going to give me data. I've got some box called Q5. All right, you remember that box? I got a custom field. It's a box. Every one of my subscribers, they've got their own little box that says Q5. Now, if I want to know what's in your box for Q5, I just need to go look at you, and I need to open up your Q5 box and look inside there. Now, essentially, right now, I'm going to ask you this question. You're going to give me some user input, and whatever input that you give me, I'm going to store it inside your Q5 box. All right? So now that's going to be inside there. All right? So now, essentially, I can publish this, and I can also come in here to Zapier, and remember, we're listening to a newer updated custom field. All right? So now I'm going to take this custom field, and what I'm actually going to do is this, come right here, and what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to copy this thing, all right, because it's just easier for me to copy this than it is to do anything else. So I'm just going to copy that guy. I'm going to change him to Q5 custom field updated in the demo bot. All right, so now I'm just going to come here and I'm going to change this from new tagged user to new or custom field. All right, and then I'm just going to come here to demo bot, and I'm going to get this, and I'm going to say my custom field is going to be Q5. That's the custom field that I want. I want Q5. So I'm just going to look for this guy until I get Q5. There's Q5. So now I got Q5. Great. So there's Q5. I'm going to fetch and continue. Great. Got some data. So now I'm going to come in here and set some custom field. It's going to be the same custom field. I'm just going to change the value here. All right. I don't know why I have some little red thing on my screen again. You guys really like to draw. So by updating Q5 custom field. So I'm just gonna now pump back down value into that last zap triggered. Why? Just because I'm referencing that last zap triggered field right here. That's why. So now that you'll know what that was actually for. All right. So now that's actually been updated. Continue. continue. Skip that test because I don't want to test it. So continue. This guy's done already. I don't have to mess with him. So I'll just turn him on. All right. So now, if you guys want, click that link again and then give me that data. So now you just go in, you just click that link again. Now you can see I first tagged you. Give me some input. My monkey's name is George. So I do have a pet monkey. His name is George. Look, zap. As soon as you gave me that input, zap. Custom field was updated, zap. All right, now you got some data from Zapier, and it's saying this zap was fired by updating Q5 custom field. All right, what about Mauricio? Well, we asked Mauricio for data. He didn't give us data. We asked Colin for data. Colin said, here's some input, zap. We asked Sunny for data. What about now? Now you guys are here. Now you guys can hear me. And you can see my screen, right? And you can see that everybody is getting zapped, right? Everybody's just getting zapped, right? Zap, 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 all this zap. She still hasn't got zapped yet, all right? If she hasn't got zapped yet, what I could always do is just come to Zapier, and I can come to my dashboard, and I can look at my task history, and I can see what's going on, all right? I can see that this person is just waiting right now. Zapier still hasn't processed this, so this person's just waiting, all right? But I can see, bam, she just got zapped, all right? Everybody's getting zapped. Until now, I have not used a trigger a zap event, okay? Till now, all we've done is we've listened to that custom field, all right? So we've tagged somebody, and in Zapier, we can listen to a new tag. Whenever that new tag's added, bam, zap gets triggered, all right? So then we ask you for some custom input. You gave that user input. As soon as you updated that custom field, as soon as its value changed, bam, zap was triggered. I can also come right here, and I can trigger zap. All right, so here I can just trigger zap. So I could just trigger zap there, but I'm not going to trigger that zap there. But I can just trigger that zap there. All right, and then what was my other options? Zapier. Zapier gave me some other options. So a new subscriber, new tagged user, new trigger event, a chat's opened. So let's do this and just come in here and come right here and then come right here and then put a message here that says, will you answer my stupid question? And then I'm going to give you some options. Yes, no. Okay, if you hit yes, I'm going to ask you to answer my question. If you hit no, I'm going to say, good choice. You already saw that other thing. I really wanted you to see this thing. All right, so now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to break this guy, and I'm going to put in an action. And then I'm going to follow that action right up to here. In this action, I'm going to trigger a zap called did not answer question. All right. So now there's that. Now I'm going to come right back here to Zapier, and guess what I'll do? I'll come right back here to Zapier. I'll come right back here. All right. I've got this guy. I saved him, Q5. Got this guy. So what was that guy that we had? He was tagged user. So he's this guy right here, added tag. So I'm going to basically copy this guy, and I'm going to edit him. And whenever I edit him, I'm just going to put in that zap's name, because literally I'm going to do trigger zap. And now I'm just going to come in here, and I'm going to change this thing from new tagged user to new trigger zap event. So now I'm going to trigger that. That's going to be my trigger whenever a new trigger zap event happens. What is that event going to be? Well, it's going to be did not answer question. All right. So I'm going to continue. Fetch and continue. I'm going to continue. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to change this. That I've done. So I'm going to skip that test. I'm going to continue. I'm going to turn this on because this thing's done now. All right. So now I'm going to ask you guys to click that link again, which I better go grab for you and pop right back in this chat. So now I'm just going to ask you guys to click that link again. And whenever you click that link, you just go to that no route. When I ask you to answer my stupid question, you just say no. And holy shit, Colin. Colin, I'm really not sure what happened to you, buddy. Have no idea what happened to you, Colin. You said no. And you got this. So did you click something else by chance, Colin? Not sure what happened to you. You shouldn't have got that. So maybe just try clicking it again because something really misfired there for you. So maybe just try it again, Colin, because you should not have got this. All right. You should have got, you clicked yes. I didn't want you to click yes. So here's a no. All right. So I asked, will you answer my stupid question? He said no. I said, good choice. You already saw that thing. I wanted you to see this thing. Bam. Triggered a zap. And it says, this was fired by, did not answer question, trigger zap action. All right. So now all you guys, you can see is that you're answering no. Once you're answering no, essentially once you give no, I just bring you into this action. I trigger that zap. And this zap right here, there's a trigger listening to that zap, and it carries out this event. It carries out this process. All right. So that makes sense. Pretty straightforward, right? You guys have got that zap. Jeff, doesn't look like you got that zap yet. Colin, you got that zap. Greg also got that zap. Jeff, you didn't get that zap. So not sure what's happened to you that you didn't get that zap. Not sure what happened to you other than just actually looking here at our task history and seeing if something failed or if there was some issue here on Zapier side and our actual task history. So that link that you would click is just this link right here. All right. So I can see did not answer demo bot. Q5 custom field updated. Did not answer. Did not answer. Added tag. Did not answer. Did not answer. Q5, 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 Q5. Added tag. So these are the different zaps that are actually processing. All right. And you guys can see that you guys are all getting zapped down that same piece of content. And I'm just changing this part of that content, handling that in my zap. All right. So now hopefully you understand really the most basics of Zapier, because that's what we wanted to do, is make sure that you understand the most basics of Zapier. Now you could obviously come right in here and you could go in here and you could add another thing and you can say, hey, Gmail, I want to send out a new email. All right. So now I'll send out a new email. Who am I going to send it? What account am I going to send it from? Well, I'll send it from this account. Why not? Whatever. All right. Who am I going to send it to? Well, I know that in any of these guys, because they're all ManyChat, I know ManyChat's giving me all your information. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say email. Now here's your email. So now I'll put in your email there. Okay. I can't really speak why it didn't happen first, why it didn't happen first, why it didn't work first. So I can't really tell you that. I'm assuming because it looks like you manually typed in the word no and you didn't click the button. Looks like you manually typed and didn't click the button. So that's what it actually looks like, because this is a lowercase o, and this is a capital O, and that's what my button is. My button's a capital O and not a lowercase. So I'm going to assume that you just typed in the chat no instead of clicking my button, and that's why it didn't actually fire. So now you can see how all this actually happens. Pretty straightforward. Nothing rocket science there. This guy doesn't have an email. Who is this guy? Well, we can just go in and actually look and see who is this guy right here. He is Charles Weasel. All right. So Charles Weasel doesn't have an email. So there's Charles Weasel right there. So let's go in and find Charles Weasel. Find his email. Give him some email. Come back to Zapier. Retest this step right here. Now Zapier will go back out to ManyChat and say, hey, give me all this information about this guy again. All right. So now I can come over here and I can see, look, there's his email, none@test.com. So now if I want to send this guy an email, I can do that. Whenever something's triggered in ManyChat, I can say, hey, I want this to be triggered. I just collected dude's email, so I want to send him out an email. So as soon as I collect his email, I can do that whenever a custom field is updated. So as soon as he gives me that email address and I stick it in that custom field, the zap will just automatically happen. Or I can use an action like I have used here. Here I've used this action, which is going to do it. So if this guy right here was your email address, then you could essentially just ask him, hey, could you please give me your email address? As soon as he gives you that value, then you can have a zap that listens to that custom field being updated, and then you could just go in and handle that and say, hey, that custom field was updated. I want to send this guy an email from John Vaughn. And say, hey, you just did something or whatever. You just did. And then I can go in and grab some data from my other. I can go in and grab some data from the other steps of my zap. All right. Now, all these guys, I can also rename these guys. So I can set custom field, rename this guy to set last zap triggered. And just save that guy so that he's got a name that is more useful for me. And I know what that thing actually is, what that step is, so that whenever I'm looking at it down here, I can see it down here. All right. So essentially that's all that is. You can understand. So you guys have any questions about this, any concerns about this? Because our time's about up for this session. This session ends in 3 minutes. So any questions or concerns whatsoever that you guys have about this? Sure. Only if they have an upgraded account that allows them to have a team. Okay. So we don't have time for filters. Our next session is going to be at 8 o'clock, and we're going to continue just with Zapier. Okay. So our whole next session is all we're going to do is continue this Zapier stuff and do different Zapier things. So you can look and see that I've got just in these ManyChat training demos. These are zaps that I've just created for you guys to show you how to go in and do stuff with ManyChat. And you can see these are all ManyChat, everything. You see every one of these zaps. There's a shit ton of zaps here. They all have ManyChat somewhere in them, okay? Because they're all zaps I've already created for you guys so that you can do stuff. How do I post your pictures from my bot to my Facebook group with the zap? How do I post your posts from my bot to my Facebook group with the zap? How do I post your pictures to my Facebook page with the zap? How do I know whenever you pay me that $10 a month and I can go in and actually give you that how-to content to get those tutorial videos with the zap? How do I get all your data from ManyChat to a Google spreadsheet with the zap? Literally, it's all going to happen with the zap. How do I email you out your ebooks with the zap? How do I go in and, for example, calculate the circumference, because maybe you want to know the actual circumference of a circle. So I do that with the zap. You go in and you click a button that triggers a zap that says, hey, you're wanting to know the circumference of something. And then I take some of your custom fields and I use some math and I say, okay, well, you must have a diameter or a radius. A radius, right? So you must have a radius that you've given me, and I know the value of pi, and I know that pi times radius equals circumference. So I'm just going to give you back the circumference and let you do some calculations in my bot. So if you go into my bot, you'll see that I have a bunch of common calculations to calculate area or your BCI, for example. If you want to calculate your BCI, I'm pretty sure that you can just do something like BCI. Maybe you can't do BCI, but I could just make it where you could do BCI. And that's all going to be, because I've already got all that built out already, there would be just some zap that's going in and collecting some information from you. Whenever I have it all, that zap just goes in and takes your information and performs a mathematical calculator. Some of you guys on training, you literally watched me just the other night create that entire blood alcohol content, BAC. That's what it is. Maybe that's why it didn't fire, because it's BAC. Something like that, BAC, some crap like that. Probably didn't actually make a keyword in it. But you can do this, replay. All right, and just before I leave real quick, let me do something real quick before I leave. Let's just go to these flows and let's find attended. And let's find this flow right here. And actually, let's just go back there and find that flow right there. And let's just duplicate this guy. Hey, where's my copy at? Should have some copy. Here's this guy. Let's rename this guy right here to attended 3-4 session. All right, let's rename him. Let's come in real quick and go to the flow builder and just essentially edit him to say that you have came to this session 3-4. Let's publish him. And then let's come in and actually not publish him. I just got to do something else that should be really, really fast, which I just need to come in here and create this post for you. And then I'm going to give you this link, and then we'll be done with this session, and we'll have our next session starting at 8 p.m. So we've got like a 2-hour break. So there's this guy. And then let me just grab this link to this post, pop it in here. So there's that guy. And then let's just change this to that and then publish that. And then let's go to a growth tool real quick and create a new growth tool that's going to be a messenger ref that's going to say attended 3.4 session, because that's this session. Let's replace that guy with this 3.4 session right there. Let's save him. And then let's continue and get that, and then give you guys that link. So now if you could just click on that link, and then once you click on that link, you can go in and find this post and comment on this post and get credit for actually attending this day's session. Remember, our next session will start at 8 p.m. promptly. So that's about an hour and 57 minutes from now. We'll go through. I don't know if we'll have time. What I was wanting to do is go through and actually build like some multiple choice quiz, some customer segmentation process, or some actual survey that you could run. So either we're going to build out a survey, or we're going to build out a multiple choice quiz, which the multiple choice quiz is essentially the same thing as a segmentation process to segment your customers. All right. So we're going to do something like that. We're actually going to build out a flow, and then we're going to take that data that we're collecting from that flow, and we're going to send that to Zapier, and then we're going to do some stuff with it. We maybe email it to somebody. We maybe make a phone call to somebody. We maybe send a text message to somebody. We maybe add it to a Google spreadsheet somewhere. We maybe add it to Teamwork. Somewhere. We may do all sorts of stuff with it. I mean, we're pretty much just limited by what is available through Zapier. And that's pretty much, I mean, as you guys can see, you guys started giving me all your common applications. We found every single one of them that Zapier has some integration with, or more accurately, that they have some Zapier app to integrate with them. So we'll come back, like I said, at 8 o'clock, and then we'll do this again. So don't forget that link. Click that link. And then if you want the replays, just remember you got to be an action taker, and then just go to the demo bot and type replays, and then you'll get this. If you want the live pre-training videos, there's like 50 hours worth of pre-training videos. You can click that and get all those. If you want the live training, these training sessions, then you can click that. You'll find all today's in 12/16. They will not be uploaded until after our last session. I'll go upload all of them to YouTube all at once, and then you'll have access to them. So you'll find them just by going to replays, clicking live training, and then clicking on this 12/16. If you want the last 2 weeks, then 12/12. If Joe, you were wanting that information to go back in and catch up, you can just click on that, and then you can find all 5 of those replays here and just pick one of them that you want to watch, and then they'll be delivered right there. So I'll see you guys soon at 8 p.m. Thanks for coming.